Hi, welcome to my Warrior 3.3 video. Coming to a close. There's not many tanks out there that actually know what they're doing. So what we're going to talk about is the standard for your class. We're also going to get into basic opener rotations, whether if you're main tanking, off tanking, and we'll talk about whatever else I feel like explaining. First of all, your role. Warrior is a tank that provides support to the party in forms of the DPS. Having a versatile war is key to any raid environment. Now let's talk about all of your skills you're going to be using, because without these skills, knowing what they do, you're going to suck. Heavy Swing. This is basically going to be the opener of your 3-hit actions. Foresight increases your defense by 20%, basically it'll soften up auto attacks. Fracture. This is going to be your dot ticks. Highly situational. You'll get a feel more into using it as you play. Skull Sunder. This is your increase enmity additional from Heavy Swing. Bloodbath. Converts 25% of physical damage dealt to HP. This thing is godly when it's matched up with Internal Release and Berserk. Brutal Swing. Just an extra stun. The first one lasts for 5 seconds, just like any other job. On off GCD, Tomahawk. That's basically going to be your enmity increased range attack. You'll be using this for the beginning of your pulls. Overpower, you'll be using when you're holding a group of monsters. Increase enmity as well. Maim. This is the bread and butter of Warrior. If you do not have this up, you're not doing your job correctly. That's a fact. Increases your damage dealt by 20% when you use it after Heavy Swing that lasts for 24 seconds. Ideally, you're going to keep restacking this every time it's going to be dropping. And don't worry, we'll get into that later. Alright, Berserk. I'm going to say this nice and slow so everybody gets it, because this is what matters. Increases attack power by 50%. Increases attack power by 50%. Increases attack power by 50%. You kind of see where I'm going with this. Sure, when it's done, you'll get a 5-second pacification, but this is what makes you a warrior. Don't forget about this buff. Do not. Butcher's Block. This is going to be your increased enmity, your 3rd hit. Ideally, it's going to be Heavy Swing, Skull Sunder, Butcher's Block. That's going to be your enmity setter. Mercy Stroke. When a boss's HP hits 20% or below, you're going to be popping this bad boy every 40 seconds when it's up till the boss dies. That being a raid setting. If you're doing multiple pulls, like dungeons for example, you know, you can play around with it and try to get that heal once you get a kill off of it. Thrill of Battle increases HP by 20% and restores that same amount. So the more HP you have, the more HP you're going to get healed off of that thing. You can also keep that in mind. Ideally, it's not really necessary to use this in Defiance. Yeah, you'll get a lot of HP back, but once you go back into Deliverance, you know, you're going to lose that max. Also, you know, this is basically a cooldown in itself. Once you have that HP, you basically have that HP amount as you were not using this and in your Defiance. Only thing you're missing out on is, well, you know, the HP recovered while healing. But ideally, you can stay in your DPS stance, pop that, and the healers will have a bit of a cushion for you. This is one of your 3rd hits, Storm's Path, when you're going through your maim combo. So you'll use Heavy Swing, maim, and then you'll use Storm's Path. This does is absorbs 50% of the damage dealt onto your HP, and it lowers the target's damage dealt by 10%. and it stays up for 20 seconds. Ideally, you really only need to put this up when you know a big hit is coming. Granted, it can still be situational, like say no one's throwing you a heal and you want to throw out that whole berserk bloodbath and just start Storm's Pathing, get your own HP back. In that case, that's fine, but like I said, situational. Do what you gotta do. Right, moving on. Vengeance. This is pretty much gonna be your oh my god, big hit's coming. Your cooldown, it's pretty much the equivalent to Paladin Sentinel and Dark Knight's Shadow Wall. Home gang, this is gonna be your Hollow Ground equivalent, except you still take damage, but most hits you'll stop at 1 HP. You know, once home gang's about to wear off, you better hope you're back, you know, to close to full health. Storm's Eye, far by your second most important combo, your action. Pretty much Maim, Storm's Eye. Heavy swing Maim, Storm's Eye. Keep that going. Now Defiance, this is going to be your tank stance. It increases the amount of HP you recover through healing magic, and it allows you to use Equilibrium to heal yourself with a 1200 potency. It also lowers your attack, so you're gonna wanna, you know, lowers your attack, raises your enmity. So keep in mind, this is where the situational effect of Warrior has. It does not give you defense, therefore having this on or off doesn't increase or decrease the amount of damage that you take. That's something that you're really gonna wanna look into, because a lot of people think that you need to stay in that stance even though you don't have to. Inner Beasts. As you have Defiance up, you collect Wrath stacks. Once those Wrath stacks hit 5, you'll be able to use this single target attack that basically heals you and gives you, reduces the damage you take by 20%. Steel Cyclone, this is going to be your AoE equivalent to Inner Beast. What I mean by equivalent is once you get stacks, you're able to use this attack. However, this one does not recover your HP. It just helps you get a ton of enmity along all the other monsters around you. Unchained, when you also have 5 stacks of Wrath, you can use this bad boy. What it does is it drops the damage penalty from Defiance. Infuriate, you know, easy said. You pop it, it gives you 5 stacks immediately. You're going to be using this along inside your rotations to get double Fell Cleaves off. Deliverance. This is going to be your DPS stance. What it does is it increases your damage dealt by 5%, and while you're in this stance, instead of getting Wrath, you're stacking up Abandon every time you use your certain actions. And when you have those 5 stacks, you can either use Fell Cleave or Decimate. Just like in Defiance, how you have Steel Cyclone and Inner Beast. These two, basically, same thing, one single target and one's AoE. Except Fell Cleave is a lot more stronger than Inner Beast, of course, the given. And Decimate is a lot stronger than Steel Cyclone, go figure. Ideally, you want to get all of your hate in your tank stance. Feel safe, switch over to Deliverance and you guessing. Raw Intuition parries all attacks from the front, but if you get hit by the rear or the flanks, you'll suffer critical damage. This is paired with Awareness. Fell Cleave, you're far by your strongest attack, aside from Maim and Storm's Eye. Potency 50 attack, use all 5 stacks of your Abandon while you're in Deliverance. This is what you're going to be as much as possible. This is your Zerg tool. Fun. Equilibrium, pretty much 1200 potency cure when you're in Defiance, and it increases your team. you're going to be using this in a very situation. Decimate. Your stacks hit 5. This is going to be your AoE. My personal preference is 4 mobs or more. Decimate them. Other than that, go with Fell Cleave. Now for cross classes, I would turn a release for crit, provoke because I'm a tank, flash for those oh shit I'm pacified at the wrong time and I need to pick up ads. Very situational. You can have this set or you can have that. Depending on what you're doing, really nothing there. But some people choose that second win. Use Mantra. Second win is just another baby cube. Mantra as a cross-class ability. It's 5%. All situation based on what you're doing. I personally keep flash there, rather than have it indicated. But those two, never use Haymaker Feather, but But yeah, these are just my personals, little basic guide of things that put you in the right path. Convalescence, another that I stick with because actually we're in Defiance. It all stacks. You're healing from Defiance. You're healing magic out for high add low spreads from the Scholar. Awareness, again, nullifies crit chance. So pair that with raw intuition, especially when you pop it and you have to move later on. It's a lifesaver. Now, getting into basic openers. This is an opener that I use if there's a ninja in a party. You can use it while you're main tanking or you're off tanking. Preferably, you'll be in Deliverance if you have a ninja for Shadewalker, because hell, you're allowed to. Now, even if you're off taking, what you do is you Infuriate, wait 20 seconds, you pop raw intuition before you move stacks. The next time going in, as the fight's about to start, you're going to have your Infuriate back that cleave going. Now, start off with the heavy swing. Storm's Eye. Please, heavy swing. Hurt. Fell Cleave, Infuriate. Fell Cleave. Skull Sunder. Block. You can pop Vengeance or Raw Intuition to get that extra stack, whichever you prefer. And then you just finish your combo accordingly. And at the end, pop your heavy swing, or you can pop Fracture. Now, it changes a little bit if you decide to use Potion, which, once you get further in, you're going to. Keep in mind, this is just a rotation I use. There's possibly a better one out there. By all means, go ahead and give you a bit of the basics. What you do is you internal release and berserk a GCD early. Hit your heavy swing, then you pop your pot, and then you continue along with that rotation, just like the first one. Pretty basic, pretty simple. Okay, moving on. When you get into a raid setting, as it comes to your openers, if you have a ninja, good for you. This means you can start in your DPS stance while, not being afraid of losing aggro. You can't ask for anything better. Ideally, what this does is it gives the raid the utility of pushing out a little bit more DPS, especially in the opener phase when nothing hurts. Ideally, you want a good ninja. Apparently we settled for this, though, because the more damage he's doing, that's the more hate that's transferred to you. Ideally, this is a strategy that most raid groups use, just because, well, it's foolproof, it's golden. Eventually, when you get into groups where you don't need the extra DPS, you can still do this if you want, but you're either going to get into a group where you don't need that extra DPS, or you don't have a ninja. If you don't need the extra DPS, you can just tank stance it and let the healers DPS more. It'll still compensate the same way. Or if you don't have a ninja, don't even try this, just tank stance it. There's no point to try to push DPS inside your DPS stance when you don't have Shadewalker. All that does is increase the chance of you losing aggro, and no one's doing damage if the mob is moving all over the place. As it comes later in, cooldowns. Never give the boss too many cooldowns to where you're not going to have anything saved on reserve for the next buster that's coming. You want to use your cooldowns accordingly along with the scripted fights, so that you know, if I use this right now, I can use my other cooldowns on the next buster. Then by the time that third buster is coming up, I'm going to have my first cooldowns that I use. Depending on what you're getting hit by, you'll figure out how you pair different cooldowns within each other. Personally, what I like to do is I like to use awareness and raw intuition for those just in case moments where I have to be moving. Some cases I'll use, like in this fight, I use awareness along with vengeance, just because when he hits you with those uplanders, each one hits harder and they all have a high crit chance. Now, whether you're a main tank or you're an off tank, your actual role is determined based on the skill level of the party and the party composition. If you have a ninja, you're starting off in your DPS stance. Changes that. If you don't, starting your tank stance. Build as much hate as possible. And when a tank swap comes up, the other tank is going to compensate and keep adding toward that enmity. Now, whether your strategy is to swap back, keep that certain tank holding it, is basically on the party. And that again changes the role of what you're doing. Now, extra ways to help push your DPS is something that I like to call, the switch around. What you're doing is you're switching that off tank that does lower DPS obviously than a main tank, and you're having him either burn an ad, do a mechanic, that way an extra DPS doesn't have to do it. That keeps their uptime on a boss. That burns the boss down a bit more faster than it would be having that off tank on it. And it allows you to be able to push certain phases just to keep that uptime going. Now in this video that you see here, I'm handling the ad that spawns and I'm handling the certain mechanics that are popping up. That way we keep everyone else on the boss DPSing. That way also, if there's a small mess up and I get hit by it, there's a chance that I'll live. Not that super bomb, but other bombs later on. And that's one basic way to push phases. Now, a main tank opener. Ideally it's the same thing. Only thing that's different is you're going to be using Unchained at the start of the pull. Now, ideally, fights, whether you decide to open up in your tank stance or you don't have a ninja to give you Shadewalker, ideally this is a good way to go about it. Pretty much you're starting off with your main combo, getting that opened up. Then you're berserking, going into your butcher's block. That's going to be a real increased butcher's block. As soon as you get 5 stacks, you switch into deliverance if you are able to. If you have to stay inside Defiance for some reason, stay in Defiance and you can either enter Beast or Steel Cyclone depending on what ads are coming up. For big pulls, pretty much what you want to do is when around everything up, make sure you know that you're able to handle the pull before you freak your healers out. Like I pretty much did with this guy. You get in your position, you set yourself up, use your overpowers to establish the hate, and you're gonna want to keep Maim up and get Storm's Eye on as many as possible if you go down that road for the Steel Cyclone and the Slashing Resistance to kick in. More damage going out. But ideally, cycling cooldowns right now is your important part. What you want to do is you want to use your heavy cooldowns first. This gives the DPS enough time to kill a few little mobs that are beating the crap out of you. Less mobs hitting you, less damage you're taking, and that's when your light cooldowns will come in handy as the pull is finishing up. Now, I didn't cover everything inside this video. All this video is for is to give you a general idea of your class and what you should be doing. Everything that I've told you inside this video were things that I use to assist me. Maybe they'll work for you, maybe they won't. This is just an idea to see some of the things that you can get away with. And it gets you in that mindset of this job really isn't like the others. There's a certain few that are really good at it, and there are a certain few who should, well, be a healer and sit at a striking dummy and try to heal it. I don't know. Anyway, good luck to you. Have fun. Later.